is accused of driving his son to the gas station and then driving off in a Dodge Ram pickup. The father's also charged with capital murder. Another teen who had been arrested Monday remains a person of interest in the investigation, but has been released by authorities. I'm Jackie Quinn.
The Dow was up 90 points yesterday, the S&P up 6. The Nasdaq dropped 15 points. I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
In Northwest Indiana, 8094 eastbound at MLK Drive, there's a crash. The two right lanes are blocked, and that's causing delays back to Broadway. Also, the Dan Ryan inbound's a little sluggish between Canal Ports and the Byrne interchange. Also, the CTA and Pace are offering free rides on buses and trains from 10 p.m. Friday, and that continues until 4 a.m. on Saturday morning, so you can take that as a different approach to getting around town if you need a designated driver. Also on the inbound Eisenhower, approaching the Byrne interchange, you have long-term road construction in place. And again, the Dan Ryan inbound at Taylor, you have the entrance ramp closed, and that's with ongoing construction. That continues until mid-January. That's traffic. I'm Paul Bodenloss.
Remember when you get to work to hop over to WCPT820.com or the TuneIn Radio app and stream The Stephanie Miller Show. Weekdays 8 to 11 a.m. on Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
Who doesn't love pets? This is Joan Esposito, and here at WCPT, we really love pets. So much so that we're spotlighting an adoptable, adorable dog or cat every month. Our friends from local rescue agencies will be featuring a furry celebrity on the WCPT820.com homepage. And we'll talk live with them and Dr. Craig from Mark Drugs about why rescue is best. It's all part of Live, Local, and Progressive with Joan Esposito. Log on to WCPT820.com to learn more.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/one small step. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter. Facts matter.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, good morning, you all. Happy Thursday. It is the Santita Jackson Show. We are live on Progressive Talk Radio. What is going on, you all? What an amazing week over the last 4 days that we've had the opportunity to engage with you all. If you're tuning in for the first time all week, I don't know what you've been doing. Maybe it's none of my business. Thank you for those of you who have been hanging out with us all week. But if you have just tuned in for the first time this week, my name is Brandon Johnson. I've had the privilege and the honor to serve as the guest host for the Santita Jackson Show as we continue to prepare ourselves for a new year. How about that? Can you believe that, you all? Year 2021, to much of, I think, most people's desire, is coming to an end. It's coming to an end. And so, but what's not coming to an end is the cause for justice and the progressive movement. We're still here. We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. And neither are you. Thank you so much again for all of the support and love that you all have demonstrated and have given to me over the course of these last 4 days. Here's the thing, too. Waking up this time of morning, it's actually refreshing You know, there's a quietness, there's a stillness about 6 o'clock in the morning. And you know, I don't know. I mean, tippy-toeing around my home at, 5 o'clock in the morning is a little bizarre. I do feel like, I don't know, this is going to sound real personal. Maybe only certain families have experienced this. But I do kind of feel like that one uncle. It's like, okay, so you just spend the night just for the night, but now you just happen to just be in the area. And so now you just kind of tippy-toeing because you don't want to wake nobody up. But by the time we wake up, all of the leftovers are gone. I know. This is the problem. In Santita, I'm so sorry because I know there's a part of me that, you're going to have to work hard when you come back to like regain all your listenership. And I've done my best not to ruin this show. It doesn't take very long for me to just go off on an unnecessary tangent. The point that I'm making is getting up this time of day is rewarding, refreshing, and it's a little creepy. I'll just say it. And listen, I've worked, especially when I was working on my degrees. And if you've ever worked a third shift, there's a different type of, like, working a third shift. It sets your day or your days up to be, quite, it's just different. It's a much different dynamic because you're working when everybody else is sleeping. By the time you get home, folks, their day is starting and so forth and on. I want you all to know, by the way, you hear a lot of commotion in the background. I asked my good friend Tara Stamps to join me this morning because I wanted to be slightly informed, but mostly entertained. And there's a reason why we are not
knocking it out the park.
There's a reason why we are not Facebook Live yet. Well, we are now. We are officially. So, Tara Stamps, I need you to get yourself together over there.
I don't know what is going on.
These folks are never going to invite us back.
I know. Help me, Black Jesus. Okay.
You got to be real specific of which Jesus you want to come.
Help me, baby. The baby.
You want the baby Jesus.
Baby Black Jesus.
The baby Black Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And so Tara Stamps is catching her breath, and I'm catching her.
Literally.
But
good morning, everyone.
This is why, like, when we were in the classroom together, poor Miss Woodson, Zelma Woodson was our principal. First of all, it was Zelma Woodson. May she rest in peace. First of all, Zelma Woodson is the reason why I decided I don't want to be a principal. I'm sorry. Listen, good morning to all the public school teachers. First of all, if there are any
good morning, y'all.
If there are any public school teachers that are awake, what's wrong with y'all?
It's habit.
Really, it is. It is.
If they're awake, it's because they have those habits now, like they up and just kind of stewing around, turning around. They're happy they don't have to go into work, but, the body kind of like, sets this clock. And so,
right. I see you all in your CTU red decked out over there.
I am because, coordinate.
As we do on the west side so well.
Got it.
You do. Yeah, I should see your boots. You got a little bit of sprinkle, a little red in there.
Sprinkle a little red in there, with my little ripped jeans. It's cute. It's cute.
She is looking very cute today. So if you are able to go to social media, you should do that now. Thankfully, those first 4 minutes were not recorded because there were a lot of things happening there.
It was a situation.
There was. We got through it, though.
I know.
But the coolest person in all of this is Devin. First of all, this is his third day this week. God bless him. And he didn't panic. He got the show started. Because mostly, look, I have to be honest with you. I'm a little afraid of Santita Jackson.
A little bit?
It's like
she's a lot of afraid of Santita. She's really like a big sister.
She is a real big sister. And every time you show up, it's just like, okay, what's wrong with me? Let me
pull
double
myself
check.
Together.
Don't come with just any old kind of way. And fortunately, Devin was calm and cool. And he says, look, I'm not going to let your relationship with Santita Jackson just go to pits because you've destroyed the studio. The content of the show he can't do much about because I pretty much decide, like, I'm going to just be bad and awful and be me. But at least the physical aspect of the show. But good morning, you all. This is Progressive Talk Radio, 820 AM, where the facts do matter. The phone lines, of course, are available to you all, 773-763-9278. a lot to talk about today. I'm looking forward to the 7 o'clock hour. You all hang in there with us as long as you possibly can. If you can just stomach some of the ridiculousness that has a propensity to come from my particular loins. But if you can handle that, if you can stick around to 7 o'clock, you won't be disappointed. We have the vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union, as well as the Illinois Federation of Teachers, Stacey Davis Gates,
SDG,
is coming through. You don't want to miss that. But check us out. She's not alone. She's coming with a little bit of support. Because that's how we do. We want to make sure that black women are protected. We got to do that.
Yes.
So we got a couple of brothers who are going to be joining us on the panel to discuss a variety of things. Listen, it's Thursday. Today is a new Friday. So things are going to get a little weird and uncomfortable. You're just going to have to bear with us. But we have State Representative Cam Buckner of the 26th House District. A lot of history in that particular House District. And his leadership in Springfield is, just absolutely refreshing, and his influence continues to grow. And then we have our dear friend, good brother, Pastor Will Hall, and he is the founder, CEO of Acts of Love. He'll be with us, and his fine congregation has many CTU members who attend his church. So that hour is going to be great. We're going to talk about everything. I promise you. But Tara, I mean, I think, when we look at the headline news today and all the stuff that's going on, I am reminded of why it's important that we are vigilant and we continue to stay the course. Breaking news last night. I'm sure most folks who listen to this station saw it. The unprecedented number of positivity rates for COVID. I believe that it hit almost 500,000 people. I mean, one day. It's actually pretty remarkable how fast this variant has spread.
It's like I feel like we're back to square one. Like this is where we were this time last year when we knew very little, or we knew something, but and then when you hear, when you're listening to the doctors and the specialists and the scientists, and they're talking about how highly contagious it is, and then so you're taking all the information in, and then you say, okay, we have our first, and I think it was like maybe 3 weeks ago, it was like the first, on the west side they say the Omicron variant, but Omicron variant, right? And then here 3 weeks later, we're talking about 500,000 people or something insane. Like, it's so bad. And in my real life, you start knowing how bad it is because you're talking in within my circle of influence, right? I just keep hearing, oh no, such and such sick, such and such sick. My sister, my elder sister, teaches in Dubai. She was formerly a Chicago public school teacher. And she just decided the rocking chair wasn't going to get her. And I'm going to take my show on the road. And she started teaching in the UAE in a little town called Fujairah, right? But it's like, next door to Dubai. So I usually just say Dubai. But at any rate, she wanted to surprise us and come home for Christmas and see everyone. But now she's kind of stuck because she tested positive. And she cannot leave the country. And she cannot enter the UAE until she has 2 consecutive negative tests. So she's going to be hanging out for a minute until that happens. And I mean, like, she went nowhere. She said, I don't know what happened. I came home, I went to church. I think it was that pesky church.
Sanctified folks.
I think it was them sanctified folks. I don't know if they vaccinated or not and got me. They got me.
That's why you have to attend one of those left-leaning progressive sanctified churches. The ones that like go remote.
And stay remote.
Stay remote. Listen,
I know at my church, Trinity United Church of Christ.
It's a very progressive church.
Very progressive. You have to register.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, like, I still haven't gone in, right? I just watch remote. But if you decide that you need to be in the house of the Lord, and you want to get that word, fresh and piping hot from the preacher, you have to literally go online and register.
Wow.
Because there's like a cutoff number for how many people they'll allow in the sanctuary, and Trinity, I think, holds like somewhere between like 5,000 and 7,000 people or something like that, maybe a little more, but definitely that. But you have to register.
773-763-9278. You don't have to register for this show. Good morning, you all. It's the Santita Jackson Show. My name is Brandon Johnson. In a couple of hours, I will officially clock in as your Cook County Commissioner, Brandon Johnson. So that basically allows me to offend people for the first couple of hours and then not be held like accountable. I don't want you. This is just regular Brandon, so that if I say something that's offensive, you can't like hold that against me when it's time for me to run for office. You just can't.
So it's a magical time when
8 o'clock. And then I'll be more appropriate. Because look, there's things that bother me, and I think people know some of those things that bother me, and I got a list of them. Trust me.
Yeah, because he's been waiting to become an old black man for a long time.
I've just been waiting. I've just been sitting here patiently waiting. It's like, oh, come on, hurry up, Ari, so I can just say mean things from my porch.
Get off my grass.
Exactly.
He's gonna be that dude.
I am that dude already. So. But I am filling in for Santita Jackson, getting a much needed, vacation, and I hope you're doing well, Santita. We love you very much, and I will say it all the time. I appreciate your leadership and what you meant to me personally as well as my family. Always thinking about my wife and my children, and finding ways to be supportive. She's hands down, one of the best Jacksons that's alive. I mean, Tito's in a distant second, but of all the Jacksons, see.
If you know, you know. I'm just saying. Yeah.
What happened to Tito?
It's 2 different Jackson families. But if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are some things that we're going to go through. So obviously this virus is absolutely
out of control.
Out of control. And it's something that, to your point that you made earlier, though, Tara, coming out of the Trump administration, there was some hope that the Biden administration would be far more responsive and responsible, and I think that there's evidence of that. However, there are spaces within local bodies of government, and obviously the CDC has its, real convoluted presentation and all of this. Is just it's confusing, it's inconsistent, but it's certainly tethered to, in my estimation, it's tethered to one of the evils of the planet, as Dr. King described it, which is capitalism.
It's capitalism.
Right. And so, the things that we know here locally, just the fact that, well, maybe I shouldn't say the fact, I'll raise it as a question so I can sound like I'm,
being
objective, right?
And objective.
But, as we prepare, we say good morning to all of our educators as we prepare to go back to school on Monday.
Oh, my goodness.
And
I just don't see it happening, but go ahead.
No, I think that's where I'm going to stop there. I mean, the idea of returning to school on Monday without having a conversation of the ramifications of such a move is disturbing. And it's especially disturbing based upon what you said earlier, that come March, we're 2 years. There are a lot of things that I didn't wake up saying I want to be good at. But we've had a couple of years to get a little bit better, to get better at handling this pandemic. I know it's been difficult for everyone, whether you are a mayor, a county board president, an elected official, an educator, a nurse, a grocery store worker. I mean, it's been hard on all of us. So let's establish that. And there's enough people, I believe, around that actually care about other people that want to get it right. And this is something that, just stay with me, audience. It's why I think that even the idea of democratic socialism being like this radical idea is troubling to me, simply because the way we take care of one another, particularly through the resources that are ours anyways, this notion that somehow the government is doing something for us that we haven't contributed to. Right. So you got like a Senator Manchin who is acting like that's his personal dollar.
His money.
And so he's going to tell us that we can't invest in us, in the very dollars in which he has authority over.
That came from us.
I don't know anywhere else on the planet where that type of dramatic form of control and white supremacy reigns. Look, it's been with us for a minute, so it's not like I'm surprised. Like, wait a minute. I mean, there's a white man out there that's wealthy and powerful that won't do right by black people? Where does this guy come from, right? I mean, it's not like this is an unfamiliar presentation. And I've said this week. Progressive politics is deeply tethered and tied to black liberation.
It is.
And everybody knows that. It's a fact. And so when we talked about earlier this week, the things that we don't want to take into year 2022, this would be one of them. Poor planning around a global pandemic. Why are we still bringing that into 2022?
I think because, like so many other things, the money is in the illness and not the cure.
Oh, you gotta say that again. Somebody gonna tweet that out.
Yeah,
the money's in
the money is in the illness and not the cure. My sister, the same one, paid $370 for a test. $370 for a COVID test. Well, she's not alone in paying $370 for a COVID test. And the fact that she can pay it means other people have to pay it. And that's just to see if you're positive or not. Right? And then there's the likelihood that she'll have to pay the $370 again to get out of the United States to go back to the UAE because she isn't, she's no longer a city employee. She's no longer working. So I don't know how all that works, but the fact that she was charged $370 is fact. And so how many other people are being charged this ridiculous amount of money, right, just for the testing? And then I have another friend, sorority sister who works for a lab in Berwyn, who was talking about the pill that they're developing, right? You've heard some talk about this, right? So I don't want to go off on it like I know really a whole lot about it, so we're not going to front like that. However, howsoever, my friend said a lot of the companies who were driving testing have now kind of fallen back so that they can divert their attention and resources to this pill, except so now there aren't as many tests. So we know basic business is supply and demand.
That's right.
So if there are fewer tests and you now have people paying $370, then they can actually ratchet that number up if there are fewer tests that, and people need to do whatever it is they need to do to make their lives work. Right?
Yeah.
So that, so that's what it is. It's money, 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 money. That's what you should have came in with, the money, 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 money.
So I'm sorry, we practiced that too, Tara.
Yeah, I know,
sorry.
got to
there he is. Can we do that again, Devin? Can we just rewind that? Let me get myself together. Because I have been singing more, mostly because I want to do one of those. Here we go. I want to do one of those Facebook or social media challenges when they sing a particular part of a song, and then they'll challenge you, and you got to sing a part. So Tevin Campbell's the new dude now. Everybody's singing the section of his song. Can we talk?
There's only one.
He said, "Wait a minute, tomorrow we'll bring a better you, a better me."
Oh yeah.
See, that was that first one.
Was that. Oh yeah.
With Quincy Jones.
With Quincy Jones.
Yeah. Right.
I forgot all about that.
I have a cousin who's a huge Tevin Campbell fan.
Is that? I didn't know they existed. I mean, he had his moment, but it's not like Jay-Z. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z, you still got Jay-Z, like people, or Tupac.
Right.
Those people you get.
Forever.
Forever, right? I remember my sister, when Tupac passed, she went to his funeral services or something. They were having like those people, but like they was homies.
How did she get there? And that's never mind.
It's a whole nother, that's a whole nother, you dig. We won't, but I just don't know of a whole, Tevin Campbell.
No, my cousin Jamie Spates, he loves.
And you gonna name his name, you gonna drop his name. You so not right. You gonna drop my man name.
Huge Tevin Campbell fan since we were boys. There's a whole segment of our audience right now that has no idea what's going on.
And then have no idea who Tevin Campbell is.
They do today.
They gonna Google him.
Devin raised his hand. He said, I know Tevin Campbell.
Hey, Siri.
You don't know him. Devin does not know Tevin Campbell. He knows now.
And you know all these different ways in which Siri answers you, too, because she's like, hey, Siri.
Played for the Baltimore Orioles.
This is terrible. But this has got to be the worst guest co-host combination in the history of Progressive Talk Radio. Thank God commercial break is coming up soon, so we should be okay.
So you just pull myself together.
That's
Jesus.
All right. Tara, you're going to have a great day today, apparently.
Apparently.
At my expense.
Yeah.
773-763-9278. Again, we're talking about 500,000 people in a day or over the course of days of positivity rates just continue to just explode. And the lack of, I'll just say it then, Tara, the lack of planning that we're seeing here in the city of Chicago, particularly as it relates to Chicago Public Schools. When we come in from the break, let's dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, because I've been calling it criminally negligent.
Yeah. If you haven't noticed, it's literally on the front page of papers of just the incompetence of this particular administration, you all. I mean, and it's becoming increasingly more dangerous. Let's do this. There's music. I've always wanted theme music in my life. I'm hoping that one day when I walk into a room, music will just start playing.
Hey, well, you got a phone?
But right, I can do that. I could just
you can DJ yourself.
I'm going to try to do that, and then I'm going to try to do a challenge one day and work on my theme song. But what I want you to do is call in. Let's continue that conversation, things that we want to leave behind in 2021. My name is Brandon Johnson. I have Tara Stamps with us.
Hello.
For the next 30 minutes. It's just going to be the three of us, you all. But in the next hour, 7 o'clock, we got some great guests coming up. 773-763-9278, you all. WCPT 820 AM, where the facts matter. It's the largest progressive talk radio station in the entire world. Get up, y'all. Good morning.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Lower your energy bills and reduce your carbon footprint with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program.
Susan, I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic is terrible.
It sure is. But on top of that, gas prices have been skyrocketing. I can't believe how expensive gas has gotten recently.
Prices at the pump are up, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Get Upside Gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time I buy gas.
And does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code RACE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your first fill-up. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code RACE for up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code RACE.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
On the north side this morning, you have a report of a serious fire, three-row house fire, Fullerton west of Clark. Also in North Chicago, Martin Luther King Drive at Route 137. There's a report of a crash as well. On the northbound Tri-State, that ramp to the outbound Ike continues to be a little sluggish as you go from the northbound Tri-State to the outbound Eisenhower. Also on 80 westbound at Larkin, there's a report of a crash. It's a car versus light pole in that area. 8094 eastbound, a little sluggish between Broadway and Martin Luther King Drive after an earlier crash as well. Inbound Kennedy, you still have that construction between Jackson and the Burn interchange. Long-term road construction sometime into next year. That's traffic. I'm Paul Bodenloss.
Chicago Heal. I believe in the vaccine.
I'm just be honest here. I was not a believer in vaccines, but I went ahead and got the vaccine, the J&J, back in April because I was worried about the people around me.
Yeah.
More than myself.
Yeah. I have no hesitancy about the vaccine. I mean, you know why?
Why?
I've seen all these white people taking it.
Tune in to Chicago Heal Sundays at 6 p.m. on WCPT.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. My name is Brandon Johnson. Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson filling in for Santita Jackson. Been doing it all week. This is day 4. Looks like I'm going to hang out with you all one more day. Beyond this one, I'll be here on Monday. The Lord says the same. Don't forget to check out my own show, Sunday Mornings with Brandon Johnson. I do that every single Sunday from 9 to 10. So check me out there. Follow me over there, and I appreciate you all. If you're on social media, we appreciate you doing that. So you can drop your comments there, share the broadcast. You can like it. Just let us know generally how you feel. Mostly positive things. If you have a real harsh critique of me, just DM it.
Like, keep it to yourself.
Well, you probably should keep it to yourself. But if you just really want to tell me how of a terrible person you think I am, if you put that in the direct message, then you won't set off all the other people who love me, because there's a lot of them.
There is.
I'm just telling you.
There are.
They mostly really love my wife, my children, but I'll take it.
But we only know them because of you.
Fair enough. Thank you. Tara, we go way back. I was just having a going down memory lane this morning. And, for those of you not familiar, Tara Stamps is in the studio with me.
Hello.
Very, very fine friend, leader.
Good morning.
Within our city, and in part responsible for my career, honestly. When I was in my final interview, Tara, you won't even remember this. Maybe you do. As I was applying.
I just had a flashback.
I did. I have become a teacher, and my first real job that I really wanted was in Cabrini Green. I had been working for the New City YMCA. I met your sister Justice. We had done some work together with team programming. And so when I decided to really go into teaching, I was really, really clear this is what I wanted to do. I applied at Jenner Academy, and I made it all the way to the final round, third interview. And if you're an educator, if you're any person who is applying for a job, that last interview is usually in front of everybody. They'll get like a team of folks. So there were a team of educators that and I know all their names. I won't call them out. And sitting around this table.
Why not you call out your cousin?
Yeah. He's asleep. You don't know. He's not ashamed of it. When that whole crew came a month ago, there was a bunch of them that came.
The Spates.
Yeah, Jamie Spates. There was a big concert. One of those spots, but they had all those old school. And he didn't care who else was on that ticket. He was like, I'm going to see Tevin.
Back to your third and final interview.
So my third and final interview, Tara Stamps, first of all, you remember, she comes into the interview late.
That could have happened.
But she's got a bunch of stuff with her. So, because it was, I think there was in the summer, so the professional development was happening. And so she comes in a little late, and Tara, you don't remember this, but Tara basically looked at everybody in the room and said, y'all need to quit playing. You got this black man who's qualified, who's got the credentials, who knows the neighborhood. You ain't putting nobody through this rigmarole. Now, what I did learn later, y'all didn't tell me this when I was applying for the job, that position, no one has stayed in it for like 3 consecutive years.
No, they had not.
So I'm applying for this job. Listen to this, you all. I think this is how awesome this was. I'm applying for this job in Chicago Public Schools to become a middle school teacher.
Social
studies and reading. And literally the position that I was applying for 3 years in a row, that person bounced. Left. And the latest one didn't even make it past September or something like that.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And so...
It was like we were all thinking the room had a curse on it.
Literally, room 309.
It's like
there's something wrong with that room.
It's cursed.
And I think the staff was triggered, and they're like, look, we're going to try this one more time. And Tara was like, I need to quit playing. Hire this brother. And then she just walked out.
They just cut it out.
And they hired me. And
the rest, as they say, is history.
And I stayed there. But Tara, this, school communities, and we've grown up politically, fighting for school communities. And I don't know if folks have seen this. This is the front page of the Tribune, I believe, today now. So back to this whole, like, not taking bad stuff from 2021 into 2022, we've had a couple of years to get a little bit better at dealing with this virus. And the very obvious, concern that people have is that after this holiday break, returning children back into the buildings and adults back into buildings, is this the wisest thing to do? And no plan from the 5th floor, no plan from Chicago Public Schools. They released all these kits for parents to get tested, or for their students
to
test their children. And there's just piles and piles and piles of these kits outside of FedEx boxes. Now, we plan for a living as educators. Like, that's got like 90%, not to say 90%, a good portion of what we do is the plan. Because if you don't plan,
fail.
You're going to ruin your school day, right? Am I missing something? This didn't have to be this complicated.
It didn't. It was real easy. It was so easy, they missed it, which is kind of like, the way of CPS. It's just too easy. And so if it makes too much sense that they just have to complicate it, because quite honestly, if you were going to distribute the test, which I just thought was not the best idea from the get-go, then why not just have the drop-off be at the school? Like, wouldn't it have been possible that you could have, and I think even you said, paid some folks, but administrators have to be in the building. Like, a lot of the buildings during the holiday are still open. I know that for the lunchroom staff, last week, they worked until Wednesday or Thursday. So there are people in the building, but even if there were not, couldn't you have made some kind of arrangement, hired some folks so that the drop-off was at the school, there was a pickup, there was a time, so that you didn't have mountains of test kits just sitting?
Makes sense to me. I mean, that's what I would do. I actually would like people to do that when I'm just having my relatives over.
It just was not hard.
It wasn't that hard.
It just wasn't hard.
But the thing is, we make these political decisions and we make them hard, and what that does is people lose confidence and faith in our systems, and we don't want that, right? We don't want people to lose confidence in these systems. And the only thing that I was getting at, Tara, we were talking about this on the way this morning before the show started. Administrators are in the building, but the mayor has control over at least $2 billion as it relates to the Chicago Public Schools.
And dealing specifically with COVID.
And there aren't a whole lot of restraints around this, right?
No, it's got a lot of autonomy.
Exactly. And so what we're saying is you could have hired parents or community folks to be drop-off centers, the school communities. You could have worked with the faith community. There's just so many different opportunities for us to collaborate. And this is, again, going back to what it means to fight for liberation, and how having a more expanding democracy and having a greater desire to have a social responsibility for one another, being each other's keepers.
Yeah.
And for me, look, I come from a large family, so some of this stuff is a little natural and innate for me. I admit, you call it sharing, borrowing, taking. In my home, if you had a sweater, dog, that's for the family. I'm just saying, if you turn your eye too fast and don't put no leftovers in the refrigerator, don't even put your name on it. That's just a waste of time. But I just grew up with a very communal support, and you and I know you have very similar.
Much so.
Yep.
Village raised is what how I describe it. I'm most definitely a village raised person. My mother, the late Marion Stamps, had she extended her reach, because we know as parents you cannot be all places at all times. So we had all kind of play aunts and uncles that just kind of helped to raise us. But also we or my sisters and I grew up with a heart for service, a heart for doing the right thing, a heart for taking care of our people. And I'm like that just in most of my sisters, in kind of all aspects of our lives. And as a teacher, you definitely saw that. But right now, just the space that we're in, and we talked in the car coming over, when we throw around, democratic social, I said, really, it's just taking good care of your people in a way that is measurable, and you can see it. And the fact that this woman, this administration, has had access to $2 billion to take care of her people, and she has willfully not done that, to me, it's just criminally negligent. And I will not be surprised if down the road we start seeing people take to lawyers and filing claims or charges, just about how things got rolled out, because even the things that she promised to take care of, she has not. Hiring people to clean the building, making sure there was enough people in there to clean the building. Easy one. That's low hanging fruit. Still hadn't done it. Making sure there was enough PPE equipment and all of that. Low hanging fruit. We knew that from 20. Right? You have to have enough PPE equipment. You got to social distance. You got to have a mask and sanitizer. Like all of these basic things that we know. For everything we don't know about COVID, there are some things that we do know. And you have the responsibility to practice with consistency the things that you do know. And that is making sure that all of those mitigations were put in place and stayed in place to help reduce these numbers. But the fact that they were not contributes to these high numbers we're seeing. And it goes back to, again, not having a plan. So, yes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. There is no way. And I was interviewing and talking to teachers as early as yesterday for the We Care program. And one of the teachers said to me, I'm not going back until they can show me what they've put in place to keep me safe and to keep my students safe. And I think as other teachers kind of start walking that line, we're going to see a different kind of re-entry plan than we saw before, because now total faith has been lost in CPS and their care and concern for the safety of students, family, and staff in buildings.
I'm going to go to Uptown. I don't know if his name is Dino. This could get interesting.
Well,
considering the morning that we've had. Hey, Dino, thanks for hanging in there with us. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, and I do apologize for everything.
Hey, this is Dynamo Dave calling from Uptown Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
First of all, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Brother Mr. Johnson, and you're giving Sister Santita Jackson a run for money. Maybe on Tuesday I'll start advocating WCPT or whatever it's called to have you replace her, because I've learned so much from you listening to your show, things I hadn't learned before. And so I wanted to let you know that. Obviously, I love her show, too. She's great.
Absolutely.
But, second, I wanted to say some things, we should forget or fix. First of all, we got all these mass shootings. And whenever there's a crime, at least in Minnesota, they give the color of the race when it's somebody who's black. When it's somebody's black, they always say who it is. They give the race. I'm myself am pigmentally challenged. I'm not as my shade as white. But anyway, I don't get it. We don't ever say on these mass shootings, which are predominantly by white people, they never say, oh, it was a white guy or a white gal or whoever. But when it's a black person, we hear about it. I don't know why. But I think we got to start changing the media. The mainstream media is just bought off by corporatism. Unfortunately, we should just get our news from Democracy Now! That's like the best source of news. Or PBS. PBS is pretty good, darn good. But they're also known as the petroleum broadcast system. But anyway, I digress. But people who are engaged in mass shooting are hurting people. And hurting people hurt people. So we need to take a look at why these people got to the point where they did, where they would be so emotionally wrecked that they would hurt other people who have hearts just like them, who have feelings just like them, that are, So I think the problem is our mass media, where they don't look at the root cause. They just focus in on one event and then they move on to the next event, but they don't look at what's the root cause of this stuff. And when people are bullied or they feel tossed around or whatever, then they strike out. They strike out and hurt other people. We need to really examine this. We need to help these people before they go out with their guns and whatever. So it's really not the guns. I mean, I'm not pro-gun guy, but it's not the guns. people are in mental anguish. They don't. Well, I should say emotional anguish. It's not a mental thing. It's an emotional thing. And that's the furthest thing most people have in our society, or at least we're trained to be this way, brainwashed, is the division between the person's heart and their mind. We got to connect people's hearts with their minds, with their brains, so that they're not doing this sort of thing. Anyway.
No. Thanks for the call, and thanks for hanging out with us this morning. You know, I talked about this on Monday, and have a Happy New Year, Dynamite. I don't just walk around every day calling grown men dynamite, by the way. It's a new thing for me, Dave. I appreciate that. I'm progressive, so I can do that. You know, but we talked about this on Monday. I think it was Denver, Colorado. There was another mass shooting, and the numbers are pretty glaring. I mean, I think it's like almost 50% or something of mass shooters are white men. Mm-hmm. Like
50%.
I know you think it would be higher. I know, right? It probably is higher, but okay. I got to get a producer to just throw stats out there for me real quick. Because I don't know, I can't Google fast enough. But I remember reading that somewhere. Right? Don't call on Siri, because Siri will just answer. By the way, we don't give gender pronouns to Siri, because now Siri can also be a male voice on your phone. Have you tried?
Or English voice. My grandson has an English Siri.
I got the brother.
Are you kidding me?
Of course I got the brother. And everybody knows a brother. And here's the thing. Yeah. Every now and then, there's the technology will let you know that it is a legitimate brother, because sometimes he'll drop one of the vowels at the end of a word.
Stop it.
I'm just saying, I caught it the other day. I'm like, he dropped a vowel there. Because, there's an articulate.
Give me an example of how this.
So how
the brother Siri responds.
I'm gonna come back with it. I can't remember it now, Tara, but in this moment. But there's a couple of times where it kind of fades off at the very end of a word, and I'm like, yes, because even the most articulate brothers, we'll kind of drop, just a little bit at the very end, so that Barack tries to do this. It doesn't come off natural. He tries though. He's like, oh, poor guy, Barack Obama. Anyhow. I'm going to leave that one alone. Because
the people will call in on you about Barack. Yeah. Don't take jabs at Barack.
Yeah, who's the sister from In Living Color? Bonita Beretta? Don't say nothing about Miss Jenkins.
Yeah. Don't say nothing about Miss Jenkins. Don't you say.
I think we just lost Devin again. Poor Devin. I don't know. Dynamite is learning.
But then you can come back wrote a song about it. Like, here you go.
That's terrible. The television growing up in the 90s was just awful.
So much better.
But it was really
hilarious.
It was really offensive, though.
It was. Well,
you can't watch that stuff now.
No, well, you can't say that.
You can't say that stuff. You can watch it, but you can't say it.
You get fired.
Now, if you hate black people, you can still say good. You could say that forever.
Well, Dave Chappelle made that point.
Here we go.
Okay, we're going to back up out of that. We're going to back up out of that.
So in other news, right, but I think, Dave's point, Dynamite's point about just how if we're not dealing with the root causes of issues and ailments, that's how, these, they metastasize. Is that the right word? I mean, you have these things continue to just mushroom and spread, and that type of hurt and torture and torment has made itself available in so many different sectors. And this is why, investments are critical. Look, you all, I do joke about it, but I'm actually serious. And I think we joke about it sometimes because we just want to let the edge off. Tara, you talked about your upbringing. You're familiar with my upbringing. And honestly, as dynamic as our upbringings were, it is attached to some level of trauma. And our situation wasn't that unique. There were other families in Cabrini Green that had the same type of care and conviction and love for community as your family did. Mm-hmm. I'm reminded of my own personal family. My Aunt Barbara raised my cousins in Cabrini Green. She's a teacher's assistant. Both her daughters were public school teachers. One of them became an administrator. We're a little pissed off about that, but that, we still invite her to family functions, even though she's an administrator. But the way we provide care for folks tells us everything about our politics. You can call yourself left-leaning, you can call yourself conservative, moderate, but at the end of the day, as they say, we'll know your politics based upon how you care for people,
how
right?
you treat your people.
You know, and so
So if that's the case, we are failing miserably.
And I think that's the point. And listen, we have to challenge our politics today, and that applies to me as well. I expressed this week. I run into folks throughout my district, and from the western suburbs to the west side of Chicago, I've had a chance to see a little bit of the United States of America in various capacities in my role as a public school teacher, as a CTU organizer, as an elected official. And whether I spend time in Texas or the Carolinas or Virginia, there are some basic desires and needs that people have, black, brown, and white. And I actually believe that the vast majority of Americans, black, brown, and white, we're seeing this in the state of Illinois, they want to see structural inequality and racism dismantled. I think that people are more sick and tired of it and bothered by it than even our presentation, more than our presentation actually expresses. And, you know, you said something very critical, Tara. Planning, when you plan, you're demonstrating that you care.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm about to go on a tangent here, but even during this pandemic, I have worked harder to cook a little bit more in the home. I got a plan for it. There's a certain love, and we talk about, you know, the love that you put in food and da-da-da-da-da. But when you care, when you love for someone, you're not just
throwing it together.
Look, the Secretary of State of Illinois, your guy, Cabrini Green guy as well. She got real quiet when I said her guy.
Yes.
Cabrini Green, we'll just say that. But our guy, Mr. Secretary, I mean, he's still a CTU member. He still plays his dues. He's a Cubs fan, so he's okay with me. And then he's a 70-something-year-old man who can flip really high in the air. So he gets credit for that. He is 80, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's just flipping. What is that?
I don't know.
Meta-human.
My 78-year-old uncle moved there recently. He ain't flipping. I mean, he barely getting up the stairs. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to figure out.
Jesse White out there just doing somersaults. He's doing somersaults at 80 years old. How about that as your grandfather? That would be frustrating. Come on over here. Let me show you how to really do it. At 80, dude. So anyhow, but he shuts down the DMV for a week. The Secretary of State is shut down the DMV for a week, and the mayor is like, look, you know, we're going back to school on Monday. Just be smart. Yeah.
But if you know, since you're talking about it, like you all have a relationship, can you get those emissions places back in the city?
Listen, people be progressive up to a point, don't they?
Up to a point.
They be like, well, hold on a second. I'm all for progressive politics, but look.
How so and never?
Can you give my street lights back on, brother progressive commissioner? Can you go? But, you know, here's something, though. We got to go to break here. But here's a real interesting story. I don't know if people saw this, but this little boy, I should know his name by now. This young boy, and we're going to take a break here. We got the real show starting in about 5 minutes. But there's a boy in Oklahoma who is an 11-year-old boy. What is his name? Davian Johnson. So he's a Johnson.
No relation.
No relation. Davian Johnson.
I'm sure that's Davion.
I believe it is.
You taught him Cabrini. Stop playing.
He should know better.
You know his name is Davion.
It is Davion.
How are you talking about Davion?
Wow.
You sound like Siri.
Well,
Siri, call Davion. Calling Davion.
Here we go again. Could somebody please? And so now we know we got a Davion on your phone. I'm really, really sorry, Santita. This is the last time I'm going to do this horribly. But so this kid here, an 11-year-old kid, he, in Oklahoma, he administers the Heimlich maneuver on a classmate, saves his classmate's life. On his way home, there's a house that's on fire, and there's a woman in it, and he saves her too. This little
just walking around, just being a little hero, just a hometown hero.
11 years
old.
At
11 years old.
Hey, listen, if you're looking for some good news, you definitely want to check that story out. Davian Johnson, who literally saved 2 lives in one day. He has done more in one day than I'll probably ever do in my entire life. But I do have some questions, Tara. I mean, I don't know if people want to answer these questions, but I just think that an 11-year-old who saves 2 lives in one day, are there no adults around him? like how does?
Where was the teacher?
At some point, even if you stepped out for a second to look in the hallway, once you see one of your students performing the Heimlich maneuver, I mean, when do you say, how do you just let them keep doing it? Because my natural reaction is going to be like, yo, I got it. I'm going to tap him out. But no one tapped him out. He kept doing it. And then on his way home, all the adults in Oklahoma, no one saw this woman in a burning house but Davion. I think the worst part about this story, though, is that they gave him like a certificate.
No cash.
Nothing. Just a certificate.
No key to the city?
Even if you're going to do symbolically, give him the key to the city.
Right.
Davion saving lives, they giving him a piece of paper. Like, I've gotten certificates, and I have not saved.
Not now, life.
Certainly not the Heimlich maneuver. How does he know
certainly
the Heimlich?
Certainly not going into a burning building.
And how does he know the Heimlich maneuver?
He could be one of those weird kids, with just like TikTok and social media, and that's his thing. He studies how to save people. Like, that could just be his thing.
Or
as
Stacey Davis Gates has pronounced, and she's coming up in a second.
He's Miles Morales. He's Spider-Man.
He's a Marvel character.
He's a Marvel character.
And you all are marvelous for hanging out with us. 773-763-9278 is WCPT 820 AM, where the facts do matter. The largest progressive talk radio in the entire station. Brandon Johnson, Tara Stamps. I got Cam Buckner, state representative. I got Stacey Davis Gates. She's the vice president of everything. I got Pastor Will Hall coming up.
Everything.
On one of the greatest shows on the planet. This is Santita Jackson Show. My name is Brandon Johnson, filling in with her, for her. Good morning, y'all.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You're out with friends, and a few drinks becomes a few too many. You decide to drive anyway. What's the worst that can happen? Drive sober or get pulled over.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. The nation is wrestling now with new COVID cases surging to the highest level on record, more than 265,000 a day on average. The AP's Sagar Magani.
The Omicron variant's largely driving the surge.
We know now, incontrovertibly, that this is a highly transmissible virus.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says Americans are seeing it every day, while overseas, the World Health Organization's chief worries about the combined impact of Omicron and the Delta variant,
leading to a tsunami of cases.
The WHO notes new cases worldwide rose 11% last week from the week prior. The CDC says cases here jumped 60%. And while COVID-19 hospitalizations have not risen at the same rate, daily deaths the past 2 weeks are up to around 1,500. Sagar Magani, Washington.
COVID keeps sidelining flight crews. More than 1,000 flights have been canceled this morning to, within, and from the United States. That's according to FlightAware, the flight tracking website. Socialite Ghislaine Maxwell plans to appeal her guilty verdict in a sex abuse trial, and her family is standing by her. They say they believe she is innocent. The AP's Jackie Quinn.
There were 5 guilty verdicts and 1 acquittal for British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, accused of sexually exploiting teens as young as 14, recruiting them and grooming them for sexual abuse by financier Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell's lawyer, Bobby Sternheim.
We have already started working on the appeal.
But Spencer Cooven, a lawyer representing 9 accusers, says the verdict brings justice.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to hold someone accountable.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
This is AP News.
They're getting ready for confetti in New York City.
The organizers of Times Square's New Year's Eve have conducted their annual airworthiness test for the confetti that will be released into the air on New Year's Eve. Treb Heining is Times Square's confetti master. He says it's a good day to test.
We normally watch for the confetti to rise as we throw it and create that tornado effect.
So they started the countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
The confetti was released.
Oh yeah, we got it right. Look what they did. It's going up to 47th Street.
Earlier this week, workers finished the installation of the 192 Waterford crystal triangles that adorn the ball every year in New York. This year's design is called the Gift of Wisdom.
We'll see you on the 31st. Happy New Year.
Tape from WABC TV. I'm Ed Donahue.
And I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
Traffic a little sluggish on the Stevenson this morning as you approach the Dan Ryan. That ramp from the inbound Stevenson to the inbound Dan Ryan is tapping the brakes. Also, the Dan Ryan heading inbound, sluggish from Roosevelt to the Byrne interchange. And on the Tri-State, if you're heading northbound, that ramp to the outbound Eisenhower continues to tap the brakes as well. On the Reagan Memorial heading westbound at the Tri-State, they have a crash on that exit ramp. It's taking out the right lane of the exit ramp to southbound 294, and also on 65 heading northbound. It's a little heavy this morning between Route 30 and 73rd Avenue. There's a crash taking out the right shoulder with a report of a car in the ditch. 80 westbound at Larkin, a crash on the right shoulder as well. That's traffic. I'm Paul Bowden-Loss.
It's better breakfast o'clock at Wendy's because it all starts with a better biscuit. Get hot and buttery Wendy's breakfast biscuits made with oven-baked bacon or savory sausage, fresh cracked egg, and cheese. So don't risk your biscuit. Get Wendy's instead. Limited time only at participating U.S. Wendy's.
Velvety paper feel, exquisite colors, stunning scale. At Staples, we sweat the details and quality of every print project. Stop by Staples and try our Print Big Promise. We're committed to getting your print job right, to treating your small business like a big deal, and guiding you from start to finish. Get 20% off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more. Offer ends January 1st. Visit staples.com/services/printing for details. Staples, where small business prints big.
Did you know that more than 90% of poisonings happen at home? Look closely and you will find poison risks hidden in plain sight inside every house. But there are actions you can take to poison-proof your home, like keeping household cleaners locked up high and away from children, properly labeling and securing medicines and supplements, and installing carbon monoxide detectors near bedrooms and furnaces. Visit poisonhelp.hrsa.gov to learn more, or call your local poison center at 1-800-222-1222, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
WCPT 820 is proud to introduce Heartland Signal, a multimedia newsroom of WCPT 820. Heartland Signal is dedicated to providing news coverage for the 2022 midterms in the Midwest region. At heartlandsignal.com, you can find all the day's news and views to keep you informed and up to date. If you love listening to WCPT 820, then you'll love getting your news from heartlandsignal.com. Visit us there today.
Hey, where's Hal Sparks? I'm not sure where he is now, but I know where you can find him Saturdays at 11. He'll be right here on WCPT 820 for the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We are in the second hour, the final day this week of the Santita Jackson Show. My name is Brandon Johnson, filling in for Santita Jackson. And Tara Stamps finished all her coffee this morning. Finished it quick.
Clean up on aisle 5. Clean up on aisle 5.
Boy. And there was a part of me that, you know, in the era of, like, disaster, our instincts to put on our phones so we can record, like, people... like having like a miserable moment.
Compromise situations.
It's very, very compromised. We got through it though. Devin was very calm. He has to be. I was kind of panicking internally because the only thing I could think of was when you see someone else getting hurt, and this is just something I'm just as advice to folks, if you're with someone, save yourself. This is the opposite of progressive politics. I mean, why we both gonna be hurt? Because you can't sit up straight. 773-763-9278.
Somebody's father.
That is. Because the thing is, when you've lived long enough,
save yourself.
It's like you've seen disaster.
What they tell you, put your oxygen mask on first.
That's what they tell you.
That's what they tell you.
Before you can save anybody else, you got to breathe.
All
of those natural proclivities just instinctively kicked in. I was watching it happen, but I was clear. I'm good. So Tara, this is probably the most exciting moment of today. You know, because
more exciting than the 11-year-old who was just saved 2 lives in one day and got a certificate. Okay.
So could if for those of you, if you're on social media, what I will say though is this: what's the appropriate like prize? I don't know if we call it a prize or a reward for preventing 2 people from dying. Like if you're a doctor and you come home and your partner asks, hey, how was your day today? Oh, you know, I performed a surgery and it looks like Mr. Johnson's going to make it. Yeah, okay, that's in the job description. When you come home as an 11-year-old and your parents like say, what'd you learn today? Davion, because that's how parents would do. Well, what did they teach you at that school today, Davion? Yeah. Oh, Kelly's breathing again.
I saved her life.
I saved her life.
She was choking on a peanut.
Yeah. That's the sound.
That's the sound effect.
I'm just saying, if I walk into my classroom, Tara, and there's a kid, first of all, if I walk into my classroom and there's a kid performing a Heimlich maneuver, I'm probably going to call my union rep. See, this is what they say about teachers. Teachers' unions. I'm just saying.
Protecting those teachers.
I'm just saying, I want the kid to live.
But I'm going to call my union rep.
State Representative Cam Buckner is with us. We have Pastor Will Hall called in right at 7 o'clock because Pastor Hall has been up since like 4:30.
Oh, my God.
Like praying towards the east. Because I do have some theological questions I have to ask Pastor Hall.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's just started snowing.
Where do you go to seminary?
It's a good question. You know, you never know with black pastors.
Because they just got the calling.
They just show up and be somebody's pastor.
Who called you?
And then he's a progressive pastor, so who knows?
So
he probably sent under Jeremiah Wright for 2 Sundays and did some of our own church. We also have the Vice President of Chicago Teachers Union, IFT Vice President.
The notorious SDG.
What's up, y'all? Good morning. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, y'all.
Man, what a joy it is. Y'all are on one this morning. For real. For real.
Ooh, to God be the glory.
Let's start with you, Pastor Hall.
Let's.
I mean, so look, there's a lot that's going on. We've been talking about this stuff for all week. You know, one of the things that we've been talking about certainly has been this virus. And, you know, as a faith leader, Pastor Hall, as, you know, someone who has done remarkable work working with civil rights organizations, your acts of love. You know, this pandemic has been, you know, horrific, particularly in communities that I know that you are deeply tied and connected to. You know, what's your, how are you understanding this moment during the pandemic, and what lessons have we still not quite learned or figured out yet?
Well, first I want to thank Santita, who is truly an amazing voice to so many minds and hearts across the nation. And definitely want to definitely show my gratitude to this amazing station as well. One of the few voices crying out in the wilderness. And then to you, Brandon, thank you so much for the invite. I'm truly, truly grateful for you and my big sister, Stacy, who we've been in the struggle for a long, long time. And I was telling Stacy recently, I remember when her last child she was carrying her child, and we were organizing in Reverend Jackson's office. But to answer the question that was asked before this question, I went to McCormick Theological.
Let's just clear that up.
And while y'all was talking about Dr. Wright, yes, Brandon, I am getting my doctorate with Dr. Wright is my dean.
Congratulations.
Hey.
Yeah.
I think this pandemic is teaching a lot, right? On the practical side, what this pandemic is teaching from especially the faith community is where are the priorities, right? The building is not the priority when it comes to serving the people. I think that we must look at and we must examine what is the priority of the quote-unquote church, right? Jesus made it very, very clear, I come to bring good news to the poor, set the captives free. And though the buildings are closed, where is still the reach towards the people, right? There are people that are still hungry. There are still people with no health care. There's still inadequate education in local communities where these churches are. And so I think what the pandemic has shown is that are people still the priority? How do you engage in a safe, sacred way to say, hey, your life matters? So the pandemic, in my opinion, has pivoted faith leaders to look at closely human dignity, right? The asset is the heart and the mind of innocent people. And it's so sad, it's so disheartening to see that in the pandemic, pastors still kept their churches open. In the pandemic, pastors still did not see it as a priority to keep their quote-unquote flock safe. And so numbers don't lie. Like indifferent about the vaccine, people still were dying at a rapid rate. And so I think that we must look at where is the value of human life and how do we add to the value of human life without a building. And if we can't do it without a building, then we're not going to the question that was answered earlier. You weren't called for this, right? The telephone didn't ring. Because at the end of the day, I cannot find anywhere in Scripture where Jesus had a building. I can't find anywhere in Scripture where Jesus was hosting anniversary services or other capitalistic methods that are connected to Jesus, the capitalist, for a lot of pastors. And so I think that this pandemic, lastly, has shown is capitalism the priority or the teachings of human dignity and the teachings of social justice and the teachings of hope and restoration through a love ethic? Are those at the center of what's coming through through the airwaves or through the programs established at these institutions? Because again, the door is shut, but the work did not stop. The door is shut, God is still God. And the door is shut. And the question now becomes, how is a church relevant without its building? If a community did not miss a church because it was closed, then that community did not know the church was there when the doors were open.
So now, of course, Stacey Davis Gates and Cam Buckner got to flip a coin. Who's going to follow that? Sorry, Stacey, you win. So, but I think to Pastor Will Hawes, I think it's a good way to insert Stacey Davis Gates in this conversation, because this is what I believe that you've been talking about for some time, not in sort of the theological sense, but in terms of the very practical sense of schools being sort of confined to a building. But before you address that, I think the first question that I have, though, is to Pastor Will Hall's point. The Biden administration sent $2 billion, at least $2 billion, just for Chicago public schools alone. And this notion of learning and teaching, being confined to a building, while also not addressing the critical needs that Pastor Will is talking about. I know you have found this to be quite frustrating, but I've seen a very clear line coming from your space. Could you help our listeners just understand, just kind of expound on just this limitations that we have created around buildings, and not necessarily thinking about how you've been leading through the Chicago Teachers Union, the Illinois Federation of Teachers. We're talking about communities as a whole, the substantive things that go well beyond just a physical building.
Hey, good morning, everyone. You all are having the most fun, and Will Hall has made it very, very difficult to say much of anything. You want to hear him more, to be honest. But look, last year we were basically in a very similar discussion about how do you keep human beings safe within the context of our school buildings. And we were promised a lot of support, resources, infrastructure, mental health supports for our students because, listen, we found it difficult as grown-ups to absorb and have language for what we're experiencing. And our young people have as well. And what we've seen, what we've experienced since we've been back in the buildings is that our children are still struggling. And the resources have not followed them. So now you hear this like binary discussion about close or open or closed. And the discussion should be when it's open, what's there for them? How are we keeping them safe? What supports are there? Over $2 billion was granted to the Chicago Public Schools from the Biden administration. And raise your hand if you are an educator, a school clerk, a paraprofessional, if you've seen that billions of dollars manifest in your school community, and has it manifested evenly? Because this is what we know. There is a substitute shortage. There is a staffing shortage. There is a lot of need. Listen, the eviction crisis is going to be worse now than we anticipated previously. And when you evict people, you're evicting families. When you're evicting families, you're evicting children. We've already struggled in this city well before the pandemic with the number of families that are without homes. And so here we are again on the precipice of all of this chaos and calamity and zero leadership, and the leadership that you do receive is incompetent. And so to say that educators in this moment are frustrated is an understatement. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like no one did their homework, no one studied, no one listened to the lesson, no one even, there was zero curiosity. There are these rote talking points that, incompetent leadership in this city and beyond parrot, and the real people who have needed already are still in desperate need of support. And so bottom line is this: I'm not having a discussion of open and closed. I think what we've seen in the retail and airline industry will tell us what we need to know. Grown-ups are going to be ill, and grown-ups won't be in the building. And so if grown-ups are not in the building, is that safe? See, leaders want to have this binary discussion of open and closed. We're open. It's open right now. And so what do we do when it's open? We saw the debacle with the test drop-off with our public school system. And you know why? Because teachers weren't in the building to help them figure that thing out. People forget that we, educators, school clerks, paraprofessionals, play a very critical role in how school is done, right? We get ridiculous policies from on top all the time that we remake in a purposeful way to implement where we'll actually have impact. And when they handed out these tests, they didn't have the benefit of our expertise because they keep telling us no.
State Representative Cam Buckner, when you hear Pastor Hall, you hear an educator, a labor leader like Stacey Davis Gates. I mean, you're a policymaker, and look, Representative Buckner, I'll be the first to admit, I mean, we've used language like historic, transformative. There's an interesting article in the New York Times that really challenges President Biden to be better. And I know you're a reflective legislator, but when you hear Pastor Will Hall articulate, the lack of responsiveness, the fact that educators are not being included in the conversation, and resources come from the federal government, they are administered to state government and local government. What type of reflection are you doing in this moment, and then what type of legislative or policy or even just advocacy needs to come from spaces like yours to make sure that school communities, that includes our faith community and our business communities, et cetera, are being cared for? Representative Buckner.
Yeah, so Brandon, nearly 2 years ago when this pandemic first beset us, right, and we tried to figure out what the way forward would be, I remember having some conversations with some colleagues and some friends just about what our ethos was going to be like, and how we're going to dig in and deal with this pandemic and this crisis and the other crises that we were facing on a perpetual basis, and how to emerge from this better than we went into it. And one thing that I said in March of 2020 was that I didn't believe that this pandemic would break us, because I believed that we were too strong to be broken by COVID. But what I did think is that COVID would shine a light and show us the things that were already broken with us, right? The things that were broken in our society, the things that were broken as far as our priorities are concerned, the things that are broken in our systems, in our laws, in our institutions. And as we sit here on the last, couple of days here of 2021, I think that still remains true. COVID shined a light on what was broken. Now, here's the thing about light, Brandon. Light can either illuminate your path and give you a way forward, or light can blind you and render you useless, right? Render you immobile. And I fear that many folks, because of the enormity of what has happened in many of our systems and our situations in our legislative bodies, we've decided to be rendered immobile and to not move forward because it's been too much for people to take in. Now, for many of us, what we were talking about COVID was not a surprise. It wasn't something that was novel at all. It's something that we live every day. But for another group of folks, this was something new and different. And I think, once again, the largeness, the enormity of it has swallowed folks up. And so as we have, as Stacey said, binary conversations about, open versus closed, we know that, today many schools, most of our schools, all our schools are physically open, but there are certain schools in our neighborhood who could not practically be more closed, right? And so what has to happen on the city level, the county level, the state level, the federal level, to make sure that we are moving policy that mirrors the needs of people in this most unfortunate and time filled with the most hardship. And so I don't think we've done enough. I think we got a lot more work to do, but people have to have the uncomfortable conversation and then put the flag in the ground and get right to action, because we are in desperate need of that.
Well, Pastor Hall, when you hear Representative Buckner say, look, we got to do more, I mean, that sounds like a good response. And this is no dig on Representative Buckner, and I've done this as well. When you hear that we got to do more, we haven't done enough, does that resonate with you, or is that, come on, y'all? Like, I mean, hold us accountable in this moment, Pastor Hall, because I mean, you're a dynamic pastor. I don't know, Tara. I think he's actually one of those cussing preachers too. I'm not quite sure. I'm more sanctified, so I don't do that.
Not you, most sanctified.
The most sanctified one. Mm-hmm. But when you hear that we got to do more, like, are you feeling that? Or is that like, come on?
Well, I think, first of all, man, my brother Cam Buckner is truly one of few, right? Like, when you examine where is the pain coming from, right? Our sister Stacey just alluded to the fact that we hear, right? We vote, we hear, but we don't see, right? And so at the end of the day, can more be done? Yes. Why can more be done? Because 2.4 million people didn't have a meal yesterday. Can more be done? Absolutely. We have millions of kids, elders, as well as grown people that don't have access to quality health care. Can more be done? Absolutely. When we have, especially in Chicago, a portfolio of so many abandoned buildings in neighborhoods that when we look and examine crime from a data perspective, there's buildings that can be used as transformational centers, but yet they're abandoned, yet they're literally hubs for violence as well as drug homes. Can more be done? Absolutely more can be done, especially when close to 60%, especially in neighborhoods where there are poverty-stricken policies, as well as those affected by poverty, are making less than $15 an hour. And so, yes, from a biblical perspective, from my theological brothers and sisters that are watching, yes, the day is going to come when we don't have any more work to do. But until that day comes, we still have work to do. And I think that the measure of how effective the work is number one, how many policies are being implemented that are not causing pain, because policy is where the pain is, right? Secondly, when we ask the question, is work being done that's good? Let's look at parity, right? Do we have access to the same resources? Do we have access to the same quality of healthcare, education, safety, and jobs that other parts of the city have? And then last but not least, because, preachers, you got to have 3 points in the close. Last but not least, how then do we look back over time, right? When we look back, especially through the hallways of history, the question now must be raised, how have we established leadership that is multi-generational, that is rooted in a love ethic, that the priority is essentially an investment in human life, right? Anybody can write a bill that's in the Senate or in the House or even an executive order. But the question becomes, how much of it was invested into the hands, into the life, and the hearts of those who we say that we are fighting for, who we say are valuable? And so I think that the talking points are very irritating because we do not see the investment in human life. We hear the billions of dollars and the so forth and so on that's a part of this spending budget or a part of this new initiative, but it's not translated when you drive down 63rd Street and after Halsted going west, it's evident that there's no investment in human life, right? And so where is the investment in one life at a time that is evident in such a way that it shows that there is a quality of life and a care for life that's wrapped in policy, wrapped in leadership, and most of all, wrapped in the love ethic.
That's Pastor Will Hall, Acts of Love, pastor of St. James Community Church in the south side of Chicago. We have State Representative Cam Buckner with us. We have the Vice President of the CTU, as well as she's also the Vice President of the IFT, Stacey Davis Gates. We're going to take a quick break here and let Stacey get herself together and Cam get himself together, because Reverend Hall, y'all, came to preach today. He clearly is preaching remotely, even on this show. But, Stacey, one of the things that Pastor Hall said, talked about, there's a need for more. We got homeless kids in the city of Chicago.
Yes.
60% of the homeless kids throughout the city of Chicago are actually black kids. But this issue around violence and crime and public safety, the mayor gave a speech. She said the county's not doing enough. The federal government ain't doing enough, and that she's fixing it. I want to get you all started when we come back. It's the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820 AM. We got Tara Stamps in the studio with us.
Hello.
All coffeed up.
All coffeed
And then
up.
we got you all, 773-763-9278. You all, good morning. Stay with us.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Lower your energy bills and reduce your carbon footprint with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic update.
On the Tri-State heading southbound this morning, it's pretty solid between 75th and Archer. There's a crash taking out the 3 right lanes. Also on the Reagan Memorial, if you're heading westbound at the Tri-State Tollway, there's a crash on the exit ramp, and they have the right lane blocked as you go to southbound 294. 80 westbound at Larkin, it crashes on the right shoulder. It's a car versus light pole. Also on 65 northbound at 73rd Avenue, there's a crash that has the right lane blocked. Also this morning, if you're on the Kennedy heading outbound at Armitage, there was some earlier police activity on the exit ramp. That's now been cleared, but you might see some lingering delays on the exit ramp in that area. That's traffic. I'm Paul Bowden-Loss.
Hey, I'm Tom, host of the Consumer Guide Car Stuff podcast. Join us Sundays at 1 p.m. as the editors of Consumer Guide Automotive Look at what matters most to people who own, love, or simply have to live with automobiles. Listen in for the latest news, great guests, expert analysis, and occasionally irreverent takes on what's happening in the auto world. We'll try and entertain you and maybe even save you a little money. That's the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast, Sundays at 1 p.m., right here on WCPT, AM 820.
Susan, I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic is terrible.
It sure is. But on top of that, gas prices have been skyrocketing. I can't believe how expensive gas has gotten recently.
Prices at the pump are up, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Get Upside Gas app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Get Upside app?
Yes, up to 25 cents a gallon cash back every time I buy gas.
And does that actually add up to anything?
Some months I make $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Get Upside app now.
Download the free Get Upside app now in the App Store or Google Play to save up to 25 cents a gallon when you buy gas. Use promo code RACE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's up to 50 cents a gallon on your first fill-up. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code RACE for up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code RACE.
Hey, where's Hal Sparks? I'm not sure where he is now, but I know where you can find him Saturdays at 11. He'll be right here on WCPT 820 for the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
And welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show here on WCPT 820 AM, where the facts do matter. My name is Brandon Johnson, filling in for Santita Jackson. Been doing it all week. A couple of times this week, had my sister Tara Stamp. She's with us today, and just looking absolutely fabulous. Stacey, you'd be proud. She's in her CTU red. I mean, because Thursday is a new Friday, right? She is definitely coordinated. I mean, the West Side is like bubbling through her all the way, through and through.
Only if she got on a pair of red gym shoes.
Well, here's the thing. So she didn't quite go there because she got a little Cabrini in her still. So she's got these cute black shoes with these red Kiss symbols and all of the red apples and of course she's got her sorority on there.
To signify the sorority.
Yeah, I've heard of you guys, you gals, girls, women. It's a lot of y'all.
It's a lot of us.
It's like in the western suburbs. Once you cross like Harlem Avenue and you start moving towards like Maywood, Bellwood, Broadview, they're just stationed everywhere.
You know about it.
I do. I've ran into a few.
They come to your aid.
They do. They supported me big time, y'all. Yeah, I took care of that for you, by the way.
You shows. He took care of it for me.
That dude.
Are you serious?
Didn't you go to Central State too?
Yes.
Okay, we're not talking about that.
Okay.
Anymore. It's
my
old.
classmate.
It's a little petty now, isn't it?
Well,
okay.
Okay.
The mayor of Chicago thinks that the governor is petty. By the way, that came out in a text message. But that's not the purpose of today's show. But what the mayor did do a couple of weeks ago, she gave this speech, which I think was necessary because violence in Chicago and throughout Cook County, it's pretty harsh right now, and it's very difficult, right? I mean, if you're raising a family, and the tenets of her speech, though, Tara, essentially that the explosion of crime is a result of Cook County government. So she laid the blame there. The second point that she made was the federal government, they ain't doing enough. Then her third part of her speech, which we've heard this before, and I don't disagree with this, that there's a real issue as it pertains to poverty. But even with those tenets, it still lacked, I think, the type of like creativity, the type of love and compassion and planning that we've been talking about all morning.
Mm-hmm. It always has lacked that. And to the point, what I find particularly offensive is that there have been all these opportunities since this administration began to partner with people who really had a pulse on what was going on in this city to make it better for everyone. And that there's just been this willful disregard to ignore that at every every way, in every turn. You just like, you missed that turn signal, you missed that,
And in Chicago, we never turn our turn signals off. Like, you should be missing turn signals in Chicago. You follow somebody for miles, and they're turning left forever.
And I know you blowing because you're annoying. Anyway, but she's missing it. And so, Stacy, my sister, how you doing? Hey, I love Stacey. I just love everything about you. But look, what are we missing in this public safety conversation? What's being missed?
Facts. From what from what Cook County government told us, from the president to the public defender to the state's attorney to the chief judge, they've all resoundingly said that the mayor is not dealing in facts, and that her rhetoric is not true. And so I think that you have to start with an understanding of facts, and that facts cannot be flexible. So that's one. I think two is that anything that you do that, number one, will have the depth of impact has to be done in collaboration and in cooperation. And then I think three, and hear me out here, the work to transform communities that have not had for generations takes a certain amount of love. Bell Hooks, prominent scholar, feminist, African-American, she was very clear in her work about the necessity of love as a revolutionary transformative tool. And that you really and truly have to love the humanity in which you are engaging with in order to do work with institutions and people and environments that have not had that level of love. In fact, have had the very opposite of that. So I think those are the things for me that are missing. Look, I'm a mother. I have 3 children that I'm raising in the city, and I love them. And the work that I do with the Chicago Teachers Union is like infused with that love. Like, we literally get to advocate for the things that people need and then fight to actually obtain those things. And that is hard work, especially when you're dealing with a system that is stubborn, a system that is unloving. So you gotta encounter it with love. You have to encounter it with each other, like unity, we, us, the many. And then you have to deal in facts. We know that communities have been robbed of resources for far too long. And so how do we begin to redirect billions of dollars consistently into places that have been robbed of those things? And how do we give ourselves enough opportunity, time, planfulness, competent leadership to get it done effectively?
Wow. That was a mouthful, all on point. Brother Cam, same question. What are we missing? What are we missing in this safety conversation about public safety?
Yeah, and so I think Stacey really just wrapped it up in many ways. But I'll just add to it what she said. We have not had the truthful, real, pure conversations about how we got here, right? It seems to be that people think we just woke up one day and this happened, and this is a thing that happened just like COVID-19. No, this is something that has been brewing for a very long time, and intentionally we got here because systems and strategies were put into place to make it happen. But now that it's gotten quote-unquote out of control, there seems to be a bunch of finger-pointing going on, which isn't helpful in any way, shape, or form. As Stacey said, leading the love in this is important, but we also got to remember, right, that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference, and we've seen indifference in many of our communities and many of our neighborhoods, which has led to where we are now. And so we have to have a reckoning. It's time to have a real come to Jesus, right, and figure out who we want to be moving forward, because we are quickly running out of time.
If I could, Tara, I want to sit with you, Representative Buckner, mostly because you said coming to Jesus, and I don't want Reverend Hall to feel like he's the only one who can talk about Jesus this morning. But you have demonstrated a tremendous amount of influence. I mean, in a short period of time, and your leadership, particularly within the Black Caucus, has certainly elevated, to your point, how we got here. So dismantling these systems of oppression are critical. But when I think about the opportunities that we do have to lead, and particularly lead our people out of this just perpetual state of wilderness, right? Try that, Pastor Hall. But as an, most folks may not know this about you, but as an athlete, as someone who has excelled academically, that there's so much to leading our people out of this that is not limited to a test score or just simply a job training. I think it's important that we just lift up. I'm even thinking about the type of love that you're saying that we have to display. You know, I know you're a sports guy. I mean, so is Pastor Hall and Stacey Davis Gates. All of you all. I don't know if Pastor Hall is a sports guy. I'm not quite sure if he actually is athletic at all, if anything. You know, but you know the influence that even Deion Sanders is having in this debate of just love, right? You know, you got top athletes that are going to HBCUs, right? That's a big deal.
HBCU.
You know, you're trying to bring more recognition even to student athletes. That there are so many different ways in which we can approach this, and it's clear that there's this limitation that we're placing on ourselves. I don't really have a question. It's just more or less I want you to talk about the fact that there's so many ways in which we can demonstrate love. Absolutely, the 4 pillars. You can go through that, brother, if you want to. But the fact that our influence plays out in variety of sectors, and I'm pleased to know that there's another top running back recruit that is considered an HBCU. There's ways in which we can demonstrate love through policy, through these type of acts, through these type of influences. That's what I believe people need to see today. Representative Buckner.
Yeah, Brandon, thank you for teeing it up, bro. And what I'll say is that there's a correlation and a connection, I think, between some of the work that the Black Caucus has done in Springfield around the pillars that I've meant to strengthen our communities. And as you said, the work that Deion Sanders is doing in Jackson, Mississippi, and across the country, and the connection there is that we are celebrating us. This is not anti anybody else. This is pro us.
That's pro us.
Right? How do we? It's pro us, and we should be okay with that. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. And we have made that extremely clear that he is there to dominate and to make sure that these young men who look like him, who come from backgrounds similar to his in Fort Myers, Florida, where he grew up, they have the ability to play somewhere where they can be celebrated, not just tolerated, but celebrated for who they are, man. And I couldn't be prouder of the work that they're doing.
And listen, Stacey, you're a Division I athlete. Again, Pastor Hall, theology, doctorate degree, okay, whatever. But let's just talk to the Division I athletes. Like, I feel like we're just missing this in this conversation. Pastor Hall, I'm going to come back to you. I promise you in a second.
We're not missing it. The powers that be are missing it.
So
and it's
arts,
willful.
It is willful, right? And so whether it's arts, the music, general musically speaking, but the sports, that there's ways in which we can go about transforming our communities. If
you have the conviction and the courage to lead with love,
Stacey,
if you have that.
And she just said it. Like, I got to be honest with you. Chicago is a complex place to engage, and if you do not love people. And I'm not just picking a side of town either. It's people. Because here's the thing. Everyone in the city wants comfort. They want accessibility. They want to be safe. And the complexity of safety is what politicians can't or won't give us in a real discussion. It is a fact that you cannot want your children brutalized through police violence and at the same time not want the boys on the block hovering on the corner, right? You want both things to not happen, and because the boys on the block may be hovering on the corner, you will be may be compelled to call 911. But that doesn't mean that you want them brutalized either when you call it. You just want them off the corner. So that's why the answers are complex, because why are they on the corner? What leads them to be on the corner? Is it because they have a felony on their record that's making it tough for them to get employment? Are they on the corner because they're homeless and do not have a place to be in actuality? Are they on the corner because the jobs that they can get underpaid them and disrespect them and put them in danger? I'm talking about Amazon.
Let's name names.
So I'm just, we have to also and to have a discussion about the complexity of public safety, because the public safety that we see in other spaces comprise of a school that families can walk their children to, It comprises of a grocery store that has fresh produce and everything you need, perhaps in walking distance. It is a neighborhood that is not littered with vacancy lots, right? People have jobs. You know, one of the things, and I'm going to close with this part. You see, I took that from Will Hall. One of the things that I think is most important in this discussion, though, is the lack of jobs that pay people a living wage and provide them with health care. You can build all the affordable housing you want to. And you can only maintain your housing if you can afford to replace a pipe. I'm looking at myself. If you can afford to keep the grass cut. If you can afford to keep the trim painted. Those things go together. I need affordability, but affordability means that I can afford it. And me being able to afford it means I have a job.
You know, Pastor Hall.
W-2.
Yeah, W-2s are a big deal. I mean, that's the one of the best parts of my father, honestly. You know, Pastor Hall, my father didn't give out a whole lot of high fives, but the brother went to work every day.
Every day, you talk about that.
Couple of jobs. And so, you know, Pastor Hall, when Representative Buckner talks about how we got here, when Stacey Davis Gates talks about like the missing components of this debate and, you know, making sure that we have jobs, you know, something that jumped out, she talked about, you know, boys or girls or just people in general that are just moving aimlessly through life. And something that I know you have been a part of through your work of acts of love. You know, I remember early in the pandemic, and there was a group of young people who were outside playing basketball. And, you know, the administration, you know, chastised them and shooed them away.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the question about how we got here, I think Representative Buckner is a good sort of frame for like what our next steps need to be, because as we understand that, you know, systemic racism is real, the lack of care and love, that's real. The indifference that Representative Buckner speaks about, that's real. You know, and you see everything as a pastor. You see the highs and lows, marriages that are struggling, people that get jobs, when folks, you know, when their grandchild is performing, you know, at a recital or a game. There's so much to this stuff that, though it's complex, there is something that's very simple about being able to lead with love. Offer us just a little bit of hope or just some direction of what we can cling to.
How do we go forward?
How do we go forward, right? Because again, I think what Deion Sanders is doing, what the of really like showing that it's okay to love our people and we have to celebrate our people. I feel like that part is missing so much. There's so much,
but it's a courageousness that goes with that, because Deion did it brazenly. Like he was the right man at the right time with the right pop, with the right polish, with the right politics for young black boys playing this sport to say, I'm going to amplify these brothers, be damned. They're going to be sharp. They're going to take planes. They're going to be taken care of. And, you know, me, very proud mom, I have 2 D1 football players. And when I said to my son,
the scouting
Nazareth,
report said they were better than Cam Buckner at his age. At that age.
Beautiful young man. I love you, Nazareth and Ali. But
Cam Buckner ran like a 5'2", I think, in the 40-yard dash.
Well, yeah, I think he was a 4'11", Nancy. But anyway, track stars and football players. But when I asked my son, I said, Naz, why? You know, I've gone to Jackson State. I've visited Jackson State. You know, I'm a graduate of Central State University, and I promise you, when I showed up at Central State, I said, this is like the projects. And I know a little something about that because I'm from Cabrini. But I would not trade those 4 years that I had at Central State for anything in the world, because people loved me and they loved everything. They saw I had professors that said, no, you're going to keep going because our future depends on what you do right now. And I think that's the same thing that I see coming out of Jackson State. That's the same thing I see happening at Alabama State, at Grambling. And so he's just kind of like created this tsunami of black love, and it's the power of black male leadership, which is also the thing. And so when I was asking my son, well, why? And he said the same thing. It's because they care about us, Mom. My son, who's also at Western Michigan, struggled mightily this year. And a big part of that, it was because he, you know, at this PWI, thank you for the full ride, however, he said, Mama, just became so apparent, like they didn't care about me. Like I was just as relevant as I was on the field. Whereas I feel, you know, as a proud alum of an HBCU, they were just far more concerned about the whole young adult. And I think that's what I'm seeing with my son. And because they talk about it, they say, you know, somebody's going to make sure you get all the right equipment. You're going to make sure that the work, I mean, all the stuff that they think demonstrates care was in place. And that's why he said so many young brothers are going to Jackson State.
Some closing thoughts here, Pastor Hall. I mean, that sounds very familiar, what Tara Stamps just articulated. That's what you're seeing.
Yeah, I want to clear something up real quick. For all y'all that do sports thing, you set the date, the time.
And he going to get with you.
The golf, I body Cam. Cam don't even want to see me on the golf course.
He said body.
Tennis, I mean, come on, man. And all these sports were donated to lessons, Brandon, because I know where you're about to go. Oh, you play golf, you play tennis. These are
I thought you was going to say
Ash.
Oh, I got you. I thought you was going to say archery next. Like, okay, fine. Will you win?
I stopped playing football. I stopped playing football simply because it hurt. But in the spirit of Deion, I wanted to be Deion Sanders, right? Number 21. You couldn't tell me I wasn't when I was a cornerback and a receiver. But to that point,
did you have finger waves though, like Deion Sanders too? Because the finger waves was not that was a problem.
I got the pictures to prove it. But yeah, I'm telling you, there's a whole vibe this morning, right? Where there is scarcity, there's always going to be violence. Scarcity is
violence. Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, right, when we talk about violence, HBCUs, and the landscape of Chicago, what's the least common denominator? Scarcity, right? So when we look at HBCUs, we come from two administrations that, and two and a half really, that have not taken serious investment in HBCUs.
Not at all.
Right?
They was fronting.
When we look at the fact that we have two and a half administrations that have budgets that have cut student loan debt relief, which shout out to Cam Buckner, who resolution was being moving to end student loan debt, right? You take more money out of student loan debt relief and you funded student loan debt collectors. So at the end of the day, what Deion Sanders did, which I saw to be so amazing, was he put last names on the backs of all of those players' jerseys.
To identify those brothers. Yes.
He said, call them by
their name.
Because it's something about being called your name that adds human value. So again, scarcity is in neighborhoods where if you look at the address of every child that was caught carjacking or every young person that was caught in a violent act in Chicago, they come from a neighborhood where there's scarcity. And so when we look at education on the HBCU level, there has to be an investment. More investment in these institutions of greatness, because if you take away HBCUs, you take away almost 30% or 40% rather of black doctors, nurses, and other industries, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to figure out a way to love and be loyal to leaders that are fighting to end scarcity, right? Because, again, if a child and a child's parents, because Stacey made a great point, you can give someone a house, but if they can't pay a water bill, they can't pay a heating bill, or they can't pay the other necessities to a home, they're back out on the street. And so, again, numbers don't lie. All of the neighborhoods in which we hear and we see violence, or where the people come from that are, enacting violence in comfortable neighborhoods, there's nothing there, right? And to go and get a quality job from these neighborhoods, it's in the Cranes, by the way, beautiful article. Travel time is almost an hour and a half just to get a job that's paying $13 an hour, right? How many, over 70% rather, of those homes in neighborhoods where there's scarcity, no degrees, no access to quality education. And so all I'm saying as I conclude today, and thank you for inviting me, Brandon, Santita, and you have an amazing co-host, is where there is scarcity for the fourth time, there will be acts of violence. In scarcity, and we reduce violence.
Stacey, I'm going to give you a minute, some closing thoughts here. You mentioned the stats around HBCUs and investments. Very, very strong point there, Pastor Hall. I believe 50% of black educators are predominantly black institutions or HBCUs. A pathway forward, Stacey?
A pathway forward. Look, you say that, and I think a Cam's family, to be honest with you. Representative Buckner is the product of the investment of the public sector. His father, a police officer, his mother, an educator, and consequently, they begat a state representative, a football player, a college graduate, someone who is standing up for our city, quite frankly, and then his sisters who are educators in the Chicago public school system, like Cam Buckner, his sisters. This is what investment in the public sector gives us. It gives us leaders who are fearless.
Representative Buckner, 45 seconds, just your closing thoughts here. Now that Stacey Davis Gates have taken your talking points, by the way.
Listen, I always appreciate my sister Stacey for her work and for her passion and for fighting for all of us. And I'll just say, Pastor Hall is right. He is better than me in golf, but I can promise you this, Brandon. There is not another 6'4", 300-pound brother in Chicago that looks better than me on the golf course.
Yeah.
We'll keep it there. But what I'll just say is this, man. We talk a lot about pro us and not anti anybody else, and that's real. We need to promote the humanity of people, right? We need to keep our focus on inherent equality and instinctive kindness and individual and collective empowerment, right? That's how we move from this. You talked a little bit, Brandon, about that day on the basketball court, I guess a year and a half ago, and that video that went viral. And what was important to me is people talk about that, because people were asking, what's wrong with these brothers? What's wrong with these young people? The truth of the matter is that COVID-19 was not the scariest thing that these brothers dealt with on a normal basis.
My God.
That was not the scariest thing in their day-to-day life, right? And so if a global pandemic that has killed 5.5 million people worldwide is not the scariest thing you deal with day-to-day, then that tells the story. We got some work to do, and the only appropriate way for us to move forward is to move forward together.
That's State Representative Cam Buckner, Pastor Reverend Will Hall, Cam Buckner, 26 House District, Pastor Will Hall, Acts of Love, St. James Community Church, Stacey Davis Gates, Vice President, the CTU and IFT. Sorry I couldn't get to the calls today. It was such a great discussion. My name is Brandon Johnson, filling in for Santita Jackson all week. Tara Stamps did a great job. We didn't get a chance to talk about our versus battle either, by the way.
What?
We got to do that next time. Because the one that I'm looking forward to, I want to see a versus between like a Don Lewis and Nell Carter. I know Nell Carter's no longer with us.
You gonna stop playing with me, Brandon?
Maybe Phoebe and Uncle Jesse.
You gonna stop playing?
Somebody cut his mic off.
Somebody's gonna stop playing. You gonna stop playing?
Out of control. I got 30 seconds, right, Devin? I want to thank everybody. Devin, my producer. Sorry.
Thank you for having me this week, Brandon. I appreciate it.
It's been great. Appreciate y'all. Do your very best, y'all, to continue to demonstrate and show acts of love. The way we actually move forward, I think you're absolutely right, is together. A progressive cause to black liberation actually frees us all. I want to thank you all, WCPT 820 AM, this incredible family. I'll be back on Monday, but check me out on Sunday, you all. God bless you all. Happy New Year.
Happy
Peace.
New Year.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
This is a WCPT Moment in Labor. In 2009, General Motors was facing bankruptcy as a result of the Great Recession. Wanting to keep their jobs and help the company, the unionized auto workers accepted concessions to allow GM to recover. GM received a bailout and tax breaks, while the employees' pay rates stayed the same. Several factories were stated to close down, the raising price of healthcare premiums, and very few temp workers being moved to permanent positions, all leading to 48,000 United Auto Workers walking out in September of 2019. The workers got together, protesting outside the car dealerships with picket signs and giant inflatable rats. And after 6 weeks of protest and General Motors losing $2 billion, they were willing to negotiate. The United Auto Workers received a 3% pay raise, factories staying open with more being built, a set process for temp workers who remained to permanent workers, and their healthcare premium prices staying the same. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
Worried about getting COVID? Vaccines may not be enough. Detect fever, the leading sign of COVID, with the Exogen Temporal Scan.